Hey, so today we're going to talk about finding the angles in standard position in radians. So radians measure. What's radians? Radians basically, it's a different unit of measuring angles. You know how we measure angles, or we measure length in meters, and we could also measure it in feet. The same thing, angles could be measured in degrees or could be measured in radians. When you're finding angles and finding theta and in exact values, okay, so this is all exact values, so you cannot resort to your calculator. So the minute you see exact values means you cannot use the calculator, and you have to refer to the special angle triangles or your sine and cosine graph. Of course, some people use the unit circle. For me, I just look at the sine and cosine graph, and I'll talk to you about questions that involve these two, sine and cosine graph. Now, if I'm given cosecant theta equals -2, it's better to change this to 1 over sine theta equals -2. But you know what? If you go sine theta equals -1/2 is the same as saying 1 over sine theta equals -2. Now, let me just remind you that 30 degrees in radians, in degrees, it's pi over 6 in radians. 60 degrees is pi over 3 in radians. And 45 degrees is the pi over 4. Okay, just always think of the pi as 180. 180 divided by 6 is 30. 180 divided by 3 is 60. 180 divided by 4 is 45. Now, once you get this and they want me to find the angle between 0 and theta, the next step for you is to draw your quadrants. 0, 90 degrees, or because I'm finding it in radians, so instead of writing 90 degrees, I should be writing pi over 2 because that's what 90 is. So pi over 2, pi, 3 pi over 2, and all the way around is 2 pi. Remember, measuring angles from 0 going this direction is always positive. If you go this way, it's negative. So now, also what you need to know, and maybe I'll just take that out, the sign is negative. You have to determine which quadrant the sign will be negative in. So you have to remember that all students take calculus. Also remember, this is quadrant 1, this is quadrant 2. You go from right to left. This is quadrant 3, this is quadrant 4. All right, now all the students take calculus. It means all the trig functions here are positive. Only the sine here is positive. Only the tangent is negative. Only the cosecant is only the tangent is positive, and only the cosine here is positive. So again, all positive here. Only the sine is positive here. Only the tan is positive here. Only the cosine is positive here. So since the sine is negative, it cannot be where all of them are positive, and it cannot be where the sine is positive. So it has to be in these two quadrants. So the next thing is to draw a terminal arm. Okay. And now, after you draw the terminal arm, you don't have to make a triangle. I see a lot of students are taught to make a triangle here. You don't. You only need to look for what the reference angle is here. To find the reference angle, you go to your special angle triangles, and you try to see which angle has a sine of 1/2. Don't worry about the negative, just to determine which quadrant you're in. So now, if you look at the 30 degrees, sine of 30 is 1/2. But of course, 30 is pi over 6 since we're finding the angle in radians. So your reference angle is pi over 6 here and pi over 6 there. Your reference angle is always between the terminal arm and the x-axis. Never make it in here because that would be wrong. You never refer to the y-axis. And as a matter of fact, the pi over 2 and the 3 pi over 2, you're not even going to use them in this kind of questions. You always refer to the pi and the 2 pi because your reference angle is between the terminal arm and the x-axis always. So now, if we want to find the first theta here is going all the way to here. So going all the way to there means you go all the way to pi, which is right here, and then you add that little pi over 6, okay, which is the common denominator here is 6. That's 1. 6 divided by 1 is 6. 6 times pi is 6 pi, plus 6 divided by 6 is 1. 1 times pi is pi, so that's 1 pi. And 6 pi plus 1 pi is 7 pi over 6. And that's your first answer. How about theta 2? Theta 2 is going from the 0 in the positive direction all the way to there. So what does that mean? That means if you go all the way to 2 pi and take away that pi over 6, that's exactly what that angle is. And here, your common denominator again is 6. So that's 1 there. 6 divided by 1 is 6. 6 times 2 is 12. That's 12 pi. Minus 6 divided by 6 is 1. 1 times pi is pi. And therefore, the answer here is 11 pi over 6. So these are the two answers between 0 and 2 pi that they will give you a sine of -1/2 or a cosecant of -2. That's what it means. Okay. And this is the question, the way it is. You could do anything, the sine, the tangent, the, and the cotangent and the secant. But there are exceptions when you doing this kind of questions. And I'll talk about them after this question right here. So I'm just going to erase this. So here we have two questions that we don't refer to the special angle triangles. I don't use the unit circle myself. Some students do and some teachers do, but me, I always go to the graphs here because it's just interpolating from the graph what the answer is. So if cos theta equals -1, all you need to do is just go to the cos graph and see where -1 is. And therefore, the angle that has a cos of -1 is the pi right there. So theta here between 0 and 2 pi would just equals pi because the domain here is between 0 and 2 pi. That's how the sine and cosine the graph, they have a period of 2 pi. And now, let's say if sine theta equals 0. So as you see, I'm not doing a lot of work. All I'm doing is just interpolating from the graph. Theta here would be sine theta equals 0. Sine theta equals 0 right here, right there, and right there. Of course, the 2 pi is not included in the domain. So it will be just 0 and pi. How about if they throw another thing and say cos theta equals 0? Then I go to the cos graph. Cos theta equals 0 right here and right here. So it's at theta would be pi over 2 and 3 pi over 2. How about if they say sine theta equals -1? So I go where -1 is, interpolate, it was right there. So the angle theta will be 3 pi over 2. So what's the, how we know to resort to the graphs? Okay, so if the sine, just give me 1 second. If the sine theta or cosine theta, if they equal 0 plus or minus 1, and the same thing for cos theta equals 0 plus or minus 1, then your answer will be derived from the cosine and sine wave. You don't even need to do anything else. You don't have to draw the quadrants and go. All the students take calculus. That's just straight interpolation and extrapolation from the graph. Okay, so I hope this helps you. This is it for finding theta and exact values between 0 and 2 pi. Till next time, as always, thank you for watching. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.